Thom Hartmann here with you, and on the line with us, the great Joe Madison, my colleague on Sirius XM. He's on Sirius XM channel 126. The Joe Madison Show, civil and human rights activist. JoeMadison.com is the website. Madison Sirius XM is his Twitter handle. Do I have all that right, Joe?
Yeah, I'm just embarrassed you keep saying the great.
I think you're great,
and I appreciate it. I was sitting here, kind of watching some of my tweets come in and emails, and I don't know. Do you get this a lot when you speak up against racism? Then people email you and tweet you and call you the racist.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, all my life, adult life, all my life, I've been victim. Oh, you're not supposed to be a victim, but I have been. My grandparents from Mississippi and a victim of racism my entire life, adult life. Most of us spent politically with the NAACP on their board of directors, their political director, going into South Sudan like we did. Tom, all you have to do is go look at just go on and look at the bio. Wikipedia. Every now and then they get something wrong. Like I found I was dead a few years ago.
Oops.
But there's nothing there but fighting racism. And then you get folk who sit up here and then accuse you of being a racist when there's nothing in your background.
Yeah.
That speaks of special privilege or exploitation. Hell, man, I haven't exploited white people. Matter of fact, it's been just the opposite, and it just angers me. But we're in that kind of, I guess, that type of society. I don't know. Someone called it. What's the term they use? Cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Well, I can tell you that
if that's a lot of that's going around.
Oh yeah. Well, as a white kid who grew up in the '50s, when I grew up in a lower middle class white suburb of Lansing, Michigan, and I did not meet a black person until I was probably 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
But the pictures that I saw of black people, what I understood of black people on television was Amos and Andy. It was these cartoons with these minstrel-like black people in them, the old Warner Brothers cartoons and whatnot. All of these stereotypes basically presented the notion that the white race was superior to the black race, and that imprints. I got to tell you, Joe, that imprints on young white people, and it's a hell of a job to extract that crap out of the deep recesses of your psyche.
So let me, Tom, put this in the words that I have used for the last 10 years that nobody wants. I'm probably going to have to, write it in stone. And here's what I say. And this, in essence, is exactly what you just said. In America, and matter of fact, you can say globally, but in America, we are culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior and black is inferior. And the manifestation of that cultural conditioning is that black people in this country and globally are undervalued, underestimated, and marginalized. Now, I don't care who's listening to your show. They cannot deny that. Matter of fact, black people sometimes, often, because of cultural conditioning, believe and accept their own inferiority. We are all culturally conditioned, and what you just said is so true. Culture is the most difficult thing to change in human beings. I don't care where you live or what you do. It is the most difficult. Like, for example, when Donald Trump said, and you proved the point, when Donald Trump said these S-holes countries, Haiti and Africa, the continent of Africa, what was the first defense that folks said? Number one, this will play great in his base. because they're culturally conditioned to believe that. Number two, what was the second thing they said? This is how people talk at bars, at family dinners. Well, let me tell you something. And then I end up at a dinner where there's a former attorney general, a four-star African-American general who is a nuclear scientist who went to a historically black college, Howard University, who was in charge of nuclear weapons. And if I would say that to people, they would say, "Oh no, that's not true." It is. You hit it, and we need to just be honest about this. But it's extremely difficult. Culture changes. I mean, we have changed. Look, the reason black folk couldn't marry white folk, wouldn't marry black people, is because they believed they were inferior. And it took law, it took social, it took laws to change it. It took public policy to change. This is what King talked about. Africa was raped by Europe for natural resources and human resources. Now, countries in Africa, tribes in Africa had wars, but so did tribes and nations on the continent of Europe. But African nations didn't rape Europe of natural resources. Matter of fact, quite candidly, that's one of the reasons they sailed from Europe was because of all the natural resources.
Search of gold.
This is part of our culture, and we were changing. We were right there. The election of Barack Obama broke down one major stereotype, that a black man would never be the leader of a free world. Yeah. Even though King believed it would happen, Bobby Kennedy believed it would happen. He said so in a speech almost 40 years ago. And we were at that point where we broke that aspect of that negative culture, only to be snapped right back in it with a man who then said, he's not legitimate. He's not an American. And that's how he got started to, when, once again, he played to the cultural ignorance. Martin Luther King Jr., and I said it this morning, my favorite quote from Dr. King is not, "I have a dream." He said the two most dangerous things on the planet are sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. And we are in a time where people are suffering from both. And quite candidly, I think that's what President Trump suffers from. And one King member said, "Oh, he's not racist, he's just racially uninformed." Well, all right, so that would be sincere ignorance. But there are times when he has been conscientiously stupid, such as when it came to the birth certificate, such as when it came to not accepting the fact that the Central Park Five were innocent, and even doubling down on it. I mean, marginalizing, African Americans. When you say to black people during the campaign, "Well, what do you have to lose?"
Yeah.
What are you talking about? What do we have to lose? We have a lot that we've gained from the time Dr. King was alive to where we are now. We have all that to lose if we don't stay alert.
Yeah. The Donald Trump's quotes are being cited as evidence of racism. Where he specifically speaks of race. I'm concerned about all the times he says he believes in the racehorse theory of genetics, which is that some people are genetically superior to others. That's the core of this whole problem.
Right. That's the whole genetics. That's exact.
This is Woodrow Wilson.
That somehow your bloodline, your DNA determines how high you will rise. So explain to me how most of the African immigrants that come to the United States to live and to work have more advanced degrees than American citizens. Explain to me how Haiti, which happens to be the ancestral home of one of the great sociologists and thinkers of our time, W.E.B. Du Bois. Explain to me how a former U.S. Attorney General, Eric Holder, whose family is from what? A Caribbean country. Oh, excuse me. And have we forgotten Colin Powell and where he came from?
Yep.
See, it is, you know, and then somebody said, well, he's not, one of the King family members said, well, he's not racist in the traditional sense. Now stop for a moment.
We're hitting a break here. Joe Madison is with us, my colleague on Sirius XM, and we will be right back with more of our conversation with Joe here on Martin Luther King Day.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit thomhartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Right back. Check out joemadison.com, and you can tweet him at, where'd it go? At Madison Sirius XM. We'll be right back.